Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe on any and every platform you use to engage with us. Today, we're going to recap and discuss Carmen Jones, a 1954 American musical film featuring Harry Belafonte, Dorothy Dandridge, and Pearl Bailey. And so the film was produced and directed by Otto Preminger and based on a 1943 Oscar Hammerstein stage musical of the same name. And that stage musical was set to the music of an 1875 French opera called Carmen by Georges Bizet. It might be pronounced Bizet because it was a French opera. I'm not sure.
I like the second version.
Yeah, Georges Bizet. That opera was an adaptation of the 1845 novella called Carmen.
Oh my goodness!
I know.
Too much.
By Henri Melhac and Ludovic Halevi. I'm sure I pronounced those names wrong because they got punctuation.
I think you did a good job.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm sure it was awful.
Yeah, they did a great job.
They have all these wonderful little phonetic
But your heart
symbols.
was in the right place.
Exactly.
That's right.
Their descendants are going to be in the comments. It is. Actually, the first letters are silent.
Or just somebody who's educated on the topic.
That's right. Or just can pronounce any words. So, the movie Carmen Jones that we're going to talk about made $9.8 million on a budget of $800,000. And y'all, this is in the 50s.
Wow.
For her performance in this film, Dorothy Dandridge became the first Black actress to be Oscar nominated for Best Actress. The movie had actually been nominated for 2 Academy Awards when she won. When she was nominated. Best Actress and Best Scoring of a Musical Picture. So it didn't win either of those, but it was nominated. And it was also nominated for 2 Golden Globes, and it won both of the Golden Globes. Best Motion Picture Musical or Comedy, and Most Promising Male Newcomer, Joe Adams. And there were many other award nominations, including like the British Academy Film Awards, the Writers Guild of America. It was a pretty good list, okay? Wow. And for some, these facts would be enough to make this movie a classic. But today, we will determine whether it is a classic from the right perspective. We'll do a recap, we'll discuss the movie, and then we'll take a vote using a voting symbol picked especially for this discussion. But we got to start with intros. Kick us off, bro.
Hi, my name is Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright, and I'm the middle.
Hello, I am Brittany Wright, and I am the youngest. Meaning they wanted no more. After this,
we have been doing so good.
Or it was the end of a good run.
We had like 3 or 4
a run of
podcasts where it was just a normal intro, and now she's back.
Listen,
she was just
Carmen has me feeling very sassy.
It makes sense. It actually makes sense.
I can see that.
Listen,
and she's fresh off of her viewing. She just finished watching it today.
So
she's still in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah. So it's appropriate for this.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Because it gets in you a little bit. Yeah.
I have so many alternate titles for this movie.
Well, I think we got to start there, sis. What do you got?
Karma.
Karma.
Karma is a good one. Okay.
Carmen.
Okay.
That's good.
Carmen.
She's for the streets.
All right, I went on this.
It started good. It was like karma. But then...
thoughts. No. Thoughts about thoughts.
Yeah. I was like, oh, Carmen, I'm not a hating girl, but
All right, yeah, we're getting started.
Those are good.
Zebra Draws. That's another movie title.
All right, look.
You know what? Let's in our comments. We need y'all to like finish this list. What are other? If you've seen this movie, what other titles?
Which this is the first time for all of us, right?
Yeah. You know, I feel like I had seen bits. But this is my first time watching it.
Mommy's
is this the first time that we've done that?
It was a fast musical.
I can't remember. I think it's the first time.
A musical that we've all not seen?
I think this is the first time.
I think you're right, because we have been focused so much on the musicals that we watched a lot as a child.
Which is all of them.
Yeah. Well, actually, bro, it's really not, because I'm going to tell y'all, Carmen Jones, it led me to kind of, because when I was understanding how historical it was for for Dorothy Dandridge to be nominated, I started to wonder, we're like, well, how many Black musicals had happened before this one? And this was not the first one. You know, the first one was in 1929, and it was called Hallelujah. Okay, so there's a whole our childhood, we watched a lot of like the well-known white musicals.
Right, but
there's this whole other list. And so, I mean, I would love for us to look into this a little bit more. I was like, man,
I love it.
It's a long list. Yeah.
I love it.
Let's do it.
All right. So now we've gone through alternative titles. Now it's time to pick
she
a
said it like
symbol.
it was a part of what we normally do.
Moving on to the next phase.
We did all the alternative titles. Now we're moving on to the next.
Yes, which is to pick a voting symbol. Okay. And if you're new to our podcast, we always pick a voting symbol. We aren't necessarily in alignment about the philosophy behind the voting symbol and how it should be selected. Some of us feel like it should be a symbol that is full of depth and really calls upon all of us to think about the through line that calls upon like it makes you kind of to ponder the through line themes of the movie. And some people just want some recurring imagery.
She went to a seance and talked to Dorothy Dandridge and asked for a symbol.
So our symbols are all over the map, okay, depending on where we land. But y'all, I have a good one, okay, to recommend. And I'm
glad, because I ain't got nothing. And I really was thinking, but I don't got one. So,
but bro, please. I was thinking that because the one that they almost kind of put out there very blatantly is the rose. Because even during the opening credits, there's like a rose there with in flames, really.
Yeah.
And then her calling card is like a rose.
It's the rose. Yeah.
So it was like it was trying to make you think rose was good, because I was like, that's a good option.
But that's not what you did.
No. That's just way too obvious. I mean, it was literally a part of the opening credits. Okay. So we just want to take it a little deeper. Okay. And I would like to recommend that we use a 9 of spades. Okay. So Carmen,
every once in a while,
yes.
Podcast,
baby, when she saw that 9 of spades, honey.
Right, because this character, Carmen Jones, she believed in signs and fortune telling, okay? And in this particular scene, she was dealt a 9 of spades from a deck of cards. And for her, it was a sign that death was coming for her. And guess what? That was not the first time she had received that message, okay? She had, and essentially through the movie, you get a sense that part of the reason she lived her life the way she did, which was somewhat recklessly, was because it's like she always felt her days were numbered. Like she's just like, I live for today because I don't know about tomorrow if it's going to even come for me, And so actually, and there's a song. It's when after she sees that 9 of spades, there's a song. It's called the Card Song. And I'm just going to read you a little bit of these lyrics because it is about her mindset. Now, this is one of the songs, and we'll talk more about this when we get to the music, but sometimes they started throwing in, D instead of the, for not all the songs, but sometimes they would start using this vernacular in the songs. And this is one where they did. All right. So it says, denying. There he is, the old boy. Plain as can be. Death got his hand on me. It ain't no use run away from that old boy if he's chasing you. It's best to stand right up and look him in the face. When he is facing you, you got to be prepared to go with that old boy, no matter what the time. So I won't fill my pretty eyes with salty tears because I ain't got the time. I'm going to run out every second I got left before he throws me down. I'm going to laugh and sing and use up all my breath. They spelled it B-R-E-F. Breath before he mows me down. While I can fly around, I'm going to do my flying high. I'm going to keep on living up to the day I die. The 9. Hello, old boy. Hello. If that don't sum up her mindset through this movie, I don't know what does.
And then she made the decision that ultimately led
to her own demise.
Yeah.
And really everybody's. She put a couple people down the tube.
I mean.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. So that's my recommendation.
After the spoiler.
9 of spades. And I don't really I don't know cards and stuff like that. So I don't know what the deeper meaning is of a 9 of spades.
I wonder if
it was like a sign of death.
I wonder if it relates to something in the play that they changed into a 9 of spades.
Oh, that's a good question.
But yeah, I like it. I love that.
And I know the original French opera was about gypsies.
Yeah,
so it's very possible.
Well, anyway, I love it. You got I'm on board with your 9 of spades.
Sis, what's on your mind in terms of potential voting symbols?
I don't have none.
Okay. Yes.
Really
Listen, I'm the kind of chick that loves to win by default. I'll take it.
All right. So we're gonna see who gets the
don't make me no never mind. All right. So obviously we just watched this movie.
I can come up with stuff.
Yeah, so you're gonna have selective Southern vernacular as well.
I sure will. I'll just pop it out any old time. It won't be consistent, but it'll just come right on out.
And will you sing?
Y'all not going to do this like you're not going to do this musical. Y'all not going to do this musical like this.
Oh my gosh. All right. So we just need to get into it because we do need to talk about that. That's the topic we got to get to.
Yeah.
All right. So let's
go on to the review of Carmen Jones.
Hot Pants.
That's another title.
Now this
Carmen Jones, Hot Pants.
Hot Pants.
Oh no, what was he called?
Heat wave.
Listen. The Heat Wave Chronicles.
Yeah.
Baby.
Yeah, the day you got burnt, Joe, by the heat wave. That's what watch out, Joe. Heat wave is coming.
Heat wave burning.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do our recap. Spoiler alert. Okay, we always do a recap because our content is generally quite aged. Okay, so let's do a recap of Carmen Jones. Carmen Jones is set during World War II and begins on an army base that includes a parachute factory. And a young corporal on the rise named Joe, played by Harry Belafonte, has earned his way into flight school and is going to become a pilot. The night before he's scheduled to leave for flight school, he has a 24-hour pass, which is essentially a free day, that he wants to use to marry his sweetheart, Cindy Lou, played by Olga James. And just then, one of his superiors, Sergeant Brown, played by Brock Peters, forces him to use that time to transport a civilian prisoner named Carmen Jones, played by Dorothy Dandridge, to civilian authorities over 50 miles away. That's how he has to use his free day. And Carmen Jones is not just any civilian. She works in the parachute factory when she wants to, okay, and is a known vixen on the army base. And she frankly already had her eyes set on Joe because he's the only man on the base that literally pays her no mind. She had been arrested for attacking a coworker that reported that she had come into work late again. Now, while transporting Carmen to civilian authorities, she flirts with Joe, who initially does a really great job of ignoring her advances. When the army jeep can't traverse the terrain for the trip, and they end up on foot for a few miles, somewhere along that trip, Joe lost all of his defenses, and they end up having sex. And while he is sleeping, she slips away, leaving him a note saying that she loves him, but she doesn't want to go to jail. Now, because he lost his prisoner and the Jeep, Joe is not only kept from leaving for flight school, but he is put in the stockades for several weeks. And during that time, Cindy Lou finds out what happened, and she tries to forgive him, but it doesn't matter because Joe is now hooked on Carmen, okay? When he finishes his punishment and once again is set to leave for flight school. Joe seeks out Carmen, not Cindy Lou, by the way. Joe seeks out Carmen to tell her goodbye. Carmen, who is now in love with Joe, she asks him to run away with her instead of going to flight school. And when he says he can't, because that would be going AWOL, she gets mad and she flirts with Sergeant Peters, who really goads Joe into a fight. Joe wins that fight, okay? And the sergeant is laying there totally beat up. Joe would certainly be put behind bars for this. So he does agree in the moment to run away with Carmen. They hurriedly hop on a train to Chicago. Carmen had already gotten money and a ticket to Chicago from a famous boxer named Husky Miller, played by Joe Adams. And, you know, he thought she was beautiful and he wanted her on his arm and in his bed, but she had declined because of her feelings for Joe. But again, she got that money and that ticket though. When they get to Chicago, you know, Carmen and Joe move into a grossy little motel room and they quickly draw the shades because they know the military police are looking for Joe. When Carmen goes out to buy groceries, but comes back with groceries, a new dress, and shoes, Joe begins to question her about where she got the money and where she had been all day. Instead of just saying that she had pawned some jewelry for money, she gets defensive because she doesn't like being questioned by anybody, especially not a man. She ends up leaving Joe and going to join Husky and his entourage to live the high life for a while. Eventually, Joe comes out of hiding to confront Carmen, and unfortunately, he does this at a very public venue, threatening to kill her if she doesn't come back to him. Carmen is not afraid of death. All throughout the movie, she had been seeing omens. So for her, it was really just a matter of time. Now, Cindy Lou, who had come to Chicago looking for Joe, again, ready to forgive him, witnesses part of the confrontation. And she has her heart broken once again when Joe literally pays her absolutely no attention because he has clearly become obsessed with Carmen. I mean, crazy eyes obsessed with Carmen. Mm-hmm. When Carmen refuses to go back to life with Joe, he strangles her to death. She barely fights. A few minutes later, the military police, who had been tipped off by a janitor, come and escort Joe away from Carmen's body to inevitable incarceration, and frankly, possibly worse. The end.
It was definitely a tragedy.
Yeah. That's what happens when the heat wave comes.
Heat wave.
Oh, it'll get you. It'll get you.
Woo!
Now, y'all, I have a question to start us off here. And I'm going to tell y'all, this is James's question, but it's a good one. Okay. And his question was, because, you know, it's like, what do you call Carmen Jones? You know, is she a vixen? You know, is she, he gave us a list of words to consider. Is Carmen Jones a harlot, a strumpet, a floozy, a wench, a hussy, a slut, a Jezebel, a trollop, a gold digger, a tramp, or a vixen? And this is interesting for me, y'all. I don't know how, I mean, they gave us such a complex character to consider. You have to make a couple of little reaches to round out who she is. But I wouldn't use all of these words to describe her. So that's my question to both of you. Like, what do we call Carmen Jones if we're just going to go ahead and try to sum up her character a little bit and how she was operating in the world?
I know what I would call her. First of all of those words apply to her.
Really? Oh.
But what I would call her is an agent of chaos. That's what I would call her.
That's good. That's another movie title.
Listen.
Do agent of chaos.
You know, if I had to choose one of those words, my first words are like harlot, like, but then also I would say vixen. And the reason why I say vixen is because vixen doesn't necessarily denote that you are having sex with these people. There are some women out here that people just think that they're fine. Mm-hmm. And they tease people and they get whatever they want and they have to do nothing for it. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like in this movie, she's showing up and she knows how to show up in a way that makes men want her. Mm-hmm. And now where she learned that, how she got there, because we met her grandma, and her grandma was living in the little shack cooking chicken.
She definitely been giving it up though.
But to who though?
Well,
we didn't see her give it up to anybody. Except Joe.
I felt it was implied that she gave it up to Joe and the boxer.
She definitely gave it up to Joe and
the boxer.
But also, I think she had a history with the sergeant that was sexual.
The sergeant as well.
And it seemed like she was known for giving up them cheeks around the base.
But they
Which is
weren't.
why I'm like, okay,
But they weren't explicit about it. They didn't say she has been sleeping with people.
True.
And so that's important. That's important.
Exactly. Like I think that's the part that sometimes there are certain women, because they have just this natural beauty and they have a natural
charisma. It's like
charisma or swag about them that it just happens that there's just this automatic mindset that they are doing these things. And it's just like, nah, but people will project that on them to say, I want you to do these things because I want you to be my, what is that from the movie, Bringing Down the House, my tawdry little, I want you to be like my little tawdry delight, just something like that. And so that's why I struggle. At first I'm like, that's why one of my titles was, you for the girl.
But
they made her, she was a fantasy more than we actually saw her digging in with people.
I gotta be honest with y'all. I just thought that was a result a result of it being 1954, because I feel like when they showed her take off her dress, I was like, this must have been an equivalent of like a really racy nude scene in that time.
Sure.
So I felt
that's
like
why
they
made that $9 million.
Yeah, that's what, probably
zebra pants.
Heard about them zebra draws, that full coverage.
That's what I'm saying. And like, and I'm just saying, I feel like they really let you know how she's getting down, because even in her original song, she was talking about to me how she was getting down. So I felt like that was in this case was a foregone conclusion that.
Well, you know what, y'all,
that she follows through.
Well, but don't we have to have a discussion though about her intent, whether she's like having sex with people or not, even if she's teasing them? It's like, what is your intention? And I don't. It definitely, she ends up creating chaos, but I feel like her intention truly is to have a good time. It seems like for me, Carmen was not one of those people like, "Ooh, you got a man? Oh, I'm coming for you." And that to me is a strumpet.
That's
a strumpet
exactly what she did.
No,
that's literally exactly what she did.
No, here's the thing: she had her eyes on Joe, regardless of whether Cindy Lou was there or not. What she liked about Joe was because he paid her no mind. That's what her first song was about. All the men want me, so I don't want them, and I don't care about them. The ones that don't want me, Joe, that's the one that has my attention. And so for me, I just feel like she wasn't one of those people that's out here like.
She had a man.
He
had a woman.
But I'm just saying, but her intention is just to do whatever she wants to do. It's not a malicious like, oh, I'm going to get that person so I can get money from them. Or I'm going to get that person so I, break up their relationship. I'm going to get that person so I can climb a ladder of some sort. I don't think that's what she was doing.
I'm saying
I think she just, it's whatever she wanted to do. She pursued it because she felt like her days were numbered. And so she was just like, I'm going to live in my truth.
See, I feel like she thought her days were numbered until she went home to see her grandma. Her grandma was like, I saw a rooster. What was it? Some type of leaf from a feather from
a buzzard, I think.
A buzzard or something. It was, and so I don't think she started thinking like that until she had the interaction with her grandma.
Well, but she said when she was talking to Joe, and they were at that house, but when she was talking to Joe about her life philosophy, she said, I always just live day to day.
Yeah. But I think that when you see that someone is in love and they are in a relationship and they are to an extent showing their commitment to them, but you are going after them, your intent is malicious. Like there's no way for it not to be. There's no way for it not to be.
Oh, and trust me, just for the record, y'all know I don't got no tolerance for strumpets. I don't got no tolerance for strumpets out here in this life. But I'm just talking about her motivation as a character. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I know women like this in real life and have interacted with any man who's spent time dealing with women has probably come across a woman like this. And what I'm saying is, regardless of your intentions, if you are just moving through with reckless abandon and you just don't care, then I don't care what you're, even if you try to say that's not your intent, that is your intent.
Yeah,
because
you understand what happens. Yeah.
You know what happens. You know what happens as a result of that.
And it's so funny because these type of women that'll be like, I just can't be friends with women. And it's like, well, I wonder why.
Yeah.
I don't.
You're not very friendly.
Even in the song, she's singing about how, she just wants what she wants. And, whatever happens, happens.
Totally.
And then when she's done, she's done. That's what she's saying. And I'm going to tell you, that was what was interesting to me about this movie in one way is that I didn't like anybody in the movie. I didn't know who the protagonist was supposed to be. Because outside of Cindy Lou, who I love me some Cindy Lou. That's her name, right?
Cindy Lou.
Cindy Lou. Yeah, I love me some Cindy Lou. She was a good person, to a fault. To a fault. She was a good person. But everybody else was horrible. Everybody in the movie, Carmen Jones, O'Dowd, were just bad people. Yeah. And I just didn't get the feeling of going through the journey with somebody.
It did make me think of Seinfeld. Like on the show Seinfeld, everybody was just so selfish. And it wasn't like, it was just like, y'all are just a bunch of selfish people. You know what I mean? But that's was the dynamic.
But in Seinfeld, it was funny. But you're making fun of, you got these four sociopaths who happen to be friends. Right. And they're even sociopathic to each other. And it's all part of the game.
Totally.
Like they don't even be mad next week. It's just, that's what happens.
But that was the only other example I could think of where it was like, who am I rooting for here? Because everybody is like so selfish.
I mean, good gracious.
But it's crazy though that you would say that, because this concept, Cindy Lou is the one that everyone says that they want. The one that's forgiving you, the one that's sweet, that's like, home. She says, home is where you are, Joe. She's like, she knows you cheated with Carmen. She's like, I heard about that.
I know you done with that chick.
You chased her to Chicago, went AWOL with her. Come home.
All of these things have happened, and she's the one that walks away the saddest and alone. Here's the other side of it.
Let me just let you know about Cindy Lou. She got married. She had about 6 kids. And she got grandkids.
She's fine.
And that progeny is still going on. I just want to let you know that.
She's fine. Listen, them generations kept on. I agree. I would love to see the end of Cindy.
Cindy Lou's story was that.
She told a testimony in church 2 weeks later, talking about how the Lord kept her from
and delivered her. Okay.
Right.
Listen, at her mama's house. But I think about, though, if you all noticed, when they were at I guess they call it the mess hall, where people eat. And then also even when they would I was laughing at this movie the whole time. So I was like, this movie is so much drama. It was like a reality show when I was watching it. I was like, oh, what?
It's true.
I was they fighting.
Scandal.
I think it was a real fight because, y'all, we've talked about 7 Brass for 7 Brothers. And, that fight was like, what were you doing last night out at the wood pal? And then they started scuffling on the floor. I said, oh, I said, oh no,
Dorcas Scaly.
Listen, whatever her name was, when she was like, and I'm telling you late. And she was like, and if you do, I'm gonna beat you up. And that's what was happening at that parachute. At the parachute factory, they were fighting.
Yes, they were. And she kept that promise.
But when they were in the mess hall and Carmen first walked in, okay, everybody else has on the dresses, which Shout out to people who work in a factory in dresses. Oh my gosh, that couldn't have been good working conditions. And so
just that whole time period, the way the women just got themselves together
and was working, walking and working in dress shoes.
Yes.
And so watching her when she was walking in and she was singing, the women were looking at her with an admiration, except for the one I was about to tell on her.
Mm-hmm.
And even the one woman said, Carmen, why don't you just pick one so we can have the rest? And she said it, of course, in a joking way, but it was also serious. It was like, girl, because everybody wants you. And until you settle down, we can't get one.
Right.
And so, but they were also looking at her in a way, which I think many women still do with these types of women. It's like, wow, to have this certain type of swag, even though I know it's an author of chaos, to have this certain type of be able to command attention when you walk in the room with your male presence. You haven't said anything, but to be able to have that type of essence about you, many of the women were looking like, I would never, but go ahead, girl. Like,
yeah,
I saw that.
It wasn't a bunch of enemies. You know what I mean? They weren't. It wasn't like she was a black sheep of the base. It was just like, that's how Carmen is. Carmen out here.
That's it. That's it. She out here.
Let me speak on this for one moment. Let me speak on this for a moment. Okay. The problem with women like Carmen is most men are invisible to women. Most men. You know, most men don't spend their lives not having like a lot of attention from women and stuff like that. And what I'm saying is if you're just a normal guy, you are not prepared to deal with Carmen. You do not have the necessary boundaries and restraint to even, because that woman will wreck a normal dude's life. And what I saw happen, it was very real, because what Joe was just a normal dude. And he got him a great woman, Cindy Lou. And if you can see, he was such a good dude. He lasted way longer than most dudes would have lasted. But there is nothing more attractive than a woman than ignoring her. You know, like that, especially for a woman who always gets the attention. And so when she locked on him, he was just outmatched. It was just a situation where I know she was probably doing stuff to him that Cindy Lou don't even know about. You know, like because Cindy Lou is a good, just you know what I mean? She is a good, solid ride or die.
Bro, you have just, without even knowing it, you have given me a segue to another question that James gave for us in the podcast. Because, bro, everything you just named, like, you know, that it also happens in reverse all the time, where there are just these men that are out here. And if they do exactly what you just said, bro, they go after that average woman, they ain't ready. That woman is not ready. And then these men, they end up wreaking havoc in their lives and their emotions. And the women are left to pick up the pieces. And what ends up happening, though, is that we have labels for women like Carmen, that whole list of names that I read out earlier. We don't have names for the men that do this exact same thing. And it happens just as often. And, you know, I got to say, you know, I don't know which side it happens on more, okay? But it's out here happening where these men going through women out here, and then the women are just living in the implications. Isn't it interesting, though, that it would be very hard for us to get to a list of names like that? So now we'll say something like, oh, he's a male whore. But even the fact that you have to put male on it, you know what I mean?
Well, I don't. If you a slut, you a slut. It don't matter what gender you have chosen or you are. If you are out in these streets, baby, you are in the streets. Now that's just to me.
But the concept of not having the list.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have a list. We might call them a whore, And then sometimes we have a positive word like playa. Ooh, he's a playa. It's like we're celebrating it when it's a man, but as a woman, she's a floozy.
Well, that's because for a man to accomplish that is hard. It's not hard for women to accomplish
that. That's an interesting take.
Oh, that's what it is. A woman, let me tell you, any woman could go outside and instantly hook up with a dude. It doesn't matter who you are, what woman you are. If you want to go hook up with a dude, you go hook up with a dude. So that's easy. We don't revere things that are easy. For a man to do that, he has to be in a certain position in life.
But why? Why do we demonize it in women, but we don't demonize it in men?
Because it's easy for a woman to do it. It's hard for a man to do it. That's why. I'm just letting you know. I'm not saying. I'm telling you that to be a man.
You can't say it as a fact, bro. That's your perspective.
No, that is a fact. Let me ask you this. And if we're being honest, okay, I'm telling you that every woman has NBA level player access to sex if she wants it. She could have as many dudes as she wants just because she could just go out and think about how easy it would be if you really wanted to go hook up with a dude right now or whatever. It's easy for women because dudes will do it. If you're a man, you have to be LeBron James. You got to be a person who is successful in order to be able to attract a bunch of mates. Otherwise, you're not going to attract a bunch of mates.
That's just not consistent with my experience.
Well, I don't know what world you're living
in. America, United States, in current day.
The only reason why I have, and I hear what you're saying, bro. The only reason why I have a little pushback or disagreement with it, like there's this new video that just went viral from TikTok where the guy's talking about how he has 7 baby mamas and they each have a kid, and he's just like, I told these women, I ain't want no kids, which was like, okay, like get a vasectomy, that'll solve all of that.
Condom,
but he don't want to, and so it's just like, well,
he puts it on them. It's their responsibility.
Cut off the option. And so I say that to say he is an extreme version of that, but there are so many men that are not this LeBron James, and they have access to so many women. Here's the thing. It's who, in my opinion, who people are going after. So in Jania's statement about, she did this is something earlier, but she used the term low-hanging fruit earlier when we were in the green room. This is something he was saying in his video about him going after, basically, of course, he's not using that terminology, low-hanging fruit. And so sometimes I think what happens many times with men or with people really in general, sometimes we're not even going after the individuals that we actually have access to. So if we're not going after the individuals that we have access to, then it's always going to feel like we're not gaining access. We're not able to get anyone, or we're not able to get to these different statuses because we're trying to get with someone that is out of our class, just for lack of a better term. And so I think many times we as women, we are trained to take who wants us. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily, it's have some standards, a little bit, a tinge. But for the most part, take who wants you. So when you have that, it is easy for you to deal with someone because you're always taught, if somebody wants you, just get with it. Mm-hmm. So I can see that part. I can also see that there are many men that if you have, when they are out here and you are in the streets, there are women that they messing with and talking to and sleeping with and all these different things, but they'll never talk about it because they're ashamed of it. They don't want anybody to know that they're sleeping with these types of people because the class they want is 2 classes above who they actually have access to. And so they get upset about that. Like, well, no, you would have to be LeBron James to get her. I'm very sorry, sir. And that's just the way the things are set up. I don't know why. I was just born.
You are taking me right to my next question that goes deeper into this psyche of the person who truly does have the ability, these special people, that we're talking about, like Carmen, where she just walks into a room, people are drawn to her. Okay. Can they really fall in love? And I guess more specifically for the movie, was Carmen actually in love with Joe?
No. She was in love with herself through Joe because she's a narcissist. So narcissists, they liked the way she loved the fact that he left his woman for her. She loved the fact that he was enamored with her. But that narcissist supply is like a drug. It only lasts for a certain amount of time. So once you are no longer getting high off that supply, you move on. And that's why she's the agent of chaos. Because she just needs that initial dopamine hit of he left. Like, I was able to get him to pay attention to me. I was able to get him away from his woman. And she doesn't even know why she don't like him no more, but that's what's happening. And so she moved on to the next. So no, she doesn't.
Sis, do you agree?
Narcissists don't have the ability to actually fall in love.
Whoa. Sis, do you agree that she was not in love with Joe?
Listen, what Aubrey's putting down, I'm picking up. Okay, what he's paving, I'm driving on. Because at first I was in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I feel my perspective was like, oh, I think she did love Joe, but not in an unconditional sense. Not in like wherever we are, because it seemed like that, right? They in that dirty little room that they were renting, living life. She's like, I'm gonna go get groceries. But when you're not being true to yourself, you think you can be in a dirty little room and be okay. But that's not what you want. That's not who you are. And so I think in my mind, I was like, okay, she loves him. And she knows that this is the type of love she should love. But that's just not who she is. And for whatever reason, right, because we don't have the Carmen Jones origin story. For right now, it seems like she's from a sweet little town. Carmen's home. Everyone's excited. They don't know who she is on the base. Okay, they just know, like, here's some chicken. Here's some wine, some potatoes and peaches. We know you love peaches, Carmen. That's because she's throwing a peach everywhere she goes. So
you get a peach. You get a peach. You get a peach.
Sharing them peaches.
Yeah.
So I think about, like, what her origin story would be, because her mama might have been sharing peaches everywhere, and she just learned it. And so,
or her mama could have been a preacher, and she and so she's living
she was
in some rebellion.
Exactly. And so
her mother only believed in canning the peaches
and
never sharing them.
Okay, putting them in syrup. And so I think that my mind was like, yeah, she just doesn't know how to receive this type of love for whatever reason, and she doesn't. And for whatever reason, she's like this. But when Aubrey just said what he said, that to me, that hits the nail on the head. You can't love if your number one reason is just self. Because in relationship, a true healthy relationship, while you need to make sure that you're being taken care of, but you have someone that is like, and I need to take care of you. And if you have someone that's just taking care of you just because, it's like, that's not, you're not loving them. But how Aubrey said it, you're loving them because they love you. Like, you're not necessarily.
Well, you know what? Let me tell, and I'll be honest. I will first just say, in terms of who I am in this life, I think I have questioned whether I actually believe in unconditional love. I don't think that I do, because I do believe that there is a level at which a person can violate.
I have 12 conditions to love you. You've only met 11 this week. Get it together.
But I do think that because for me, love is like, it's more than the emotion, it's the action, it's the work. And I personally feel like there is a way for that to be violated. Like, so if there's a line that can be crossed for me. And I've thought about it, and I think that for me, it's not the same line for every relationship, but could I see myself saying, even in a family context, I am related to you and I respect that connection, but I don't love you because I'm not willing to now put in the actions that to me qualify a love relationship because of X, Y, and Z. That's who I am. And so now again, but I also at the same time, like I haven't acted on that where I'm like canceling people out and blocking out loved ones.
Oh,
and stuff
honey,
like
let
that.
me show you my list.
But so I haven't activated on that in the real way, but I personally do know that there could be a line for me. There absolutely could. This is like one of those things where there are people who just don't believe in divorce. It's like, if you get married, you're just in it. You just make it work. And I don't believe in that. My personal thought is you make it work while it makes sense for you, and don't have some kind of very unreasonable threshold where it's like, I'm mad for 2 weeks out of a month. I don't know. Get your balances in order. Like, don't be, quick about making these kinds of decisions. But I also think that if things change, we have a responsibility. Or if you get new information that you didn't have before, or a new perspective, that it is a responsible adult thing to do to factor that in, and not just come up with some way of trying to justify your prior conclusion without considering the new information. So that's just who I am. So because of that, because I don't really truly believe in like this unconditional, we just in it because we're in it. It is for me possible to contemplate the kind of love that Carmen could have had here. And here's why. Because if you think about what actually happened, and I like that they gave us a couple of opportunities to watch her. We watched Carmen turn down a few times the kind of opportunity to be with a man or to have excitement that she would normally just go with. She had a couple of these opportunities and she was just saying, no, I'm not doing that now because I'm in love with Joe. I'm past that. I'm in love with Joe. And she was in it with him. But now, was she still selfish in that, saying, I want you to go AWOL rather than, be away from me? She was. But I feel like the moment she went back into her old behaviors was when he started treating her the way everybody else treats her.
But that's the thing. She never left them behaviors. The behaviors was always there.
But sis, she wasn't, because she had started to say no to these other opportunities that were coming to her because she was so devoted to Joe. Even when he was in the stockades, she didn't know when he was coming out. She had no sense, but she was still there devoted to him. And it was when he started to question her, when he started to act suspicious. Now, was it valid for him to be suspicious? It was, because she was supposed to be going to the grocery store and she was out all day. But if someone trusts you and they say, well, what did you do today? That's very different from someone saying, I know what kind of person you are. What did you do today? And so I think Joe just treated her the way everybody else treats her. And that's when she was like, okay, I see.
But I see
this is typical.
Voice.
No,
he didn't say it like that.
Yes, he did. He had her up against the wall like, you're mine. You need to tell me where you were.
He didn't say it. I mean, I didn't take it like that, but I think that I see what you're saying.
He was very suspicious.
He was, because she came in with a new dress and new shoes. And it was like, okay, you're saying you went to go get groceries. You've been gone all day, girl. And I think that was.
But he didn't say it like that. If he had just said, you've been gone all day.
But I felt like he did say it like that.
Can I say this? There was no love in this relationship. Joe was trauma bonded to Carmen. Carmen was using Joe as a narcissistic supply. That is why she was able to leave him so quickly. And he wasn't experiencing love. He was obsessed, which is not love.
He was definitely obsessed.
To me, the truest form of love, in my opinion, is, first of all, you have to know yourself. Really. You have to really know yourself, not what you think everybody should, not trying to be what you think you should be, not knowing, with society, what do you really, who are you really? That's the first part. And when you're like that, you could come across a counterpart. And true love is, I put you first and you put me first. That's my opinion. I am your well-being and your life that goes first. And you're doing the same thing to me. That's true love. And what they were doing ain't have nothing to do with that. This was just a normal dude who did a good job but against that kind of woman, you have to be a certain type of man. Like, you have to be, I can promise you, Carmen wouldn't have had no impact on my life. And I would have had whatever fun I wanted to have with her and kept it moving. But for most men, you are not. For most men who and we see this play out, that, he'll have a good life. And it is just some chick who's just, flashy in this way or that way. He's never had access to that kind of woman, and she could just come in and wreck the whole life. And as soon as she's done, she moves on. Why? Because if you're in love, you cannot move on from somebody like that. You can't in one day.
Like Cindy Lou, just keep it coming back.
Cindy Lou was in love. Cindy Lou was in love.
This is exactly, but this is why this story is sad to me.
Oh, it's sad.
It's so sad because I think about how many Cindy Lou's are out there. You become the woman that they're always telling you to be. And you are walking out in a hallway singing about a song about a man and
right. Why is what Cindy Lou is experiencing, why is that called love and not called obsession?
Well,
how many times do you let someone poo-poo in your face before it's now more valid to call it an obsession than love?
Can I say why? Because Cindy Lou, if you listen to her language, she was always concerned about Joe. She's never talking about herself. Joe is you're mine. You can't be with nobody else. You know what I mean? Like, if you're with anybody else, I'm gonna kill you. Like, he's worried about him. He's not worried about Carmen even. Cindy Lou was always worried about Joe. She's always wanting him to be good. She's always delivering into him. And the thing is, Cindy Lou got hurt, but I'm telling you, if we watched Carmen Jones 2, Cindy Lou 2, she learned. It wouldn't have took her a long time. She now knows what to recognize. She now knows, because there's probably a couple of flags that she ignored in her journey with Joe, but she knows now. And she is the next person. I would bet she ended up married and happy because she is a high value woman. And I'm saying,
God, I struggle with this.
Or she left there and became Carmen Jones.
I don't believe it.
I'm not saying, I'm just,
but it's possible.
The reason why I'm saying that is because we don't know how many Joes that she's had that are seeming like they are in love with her and doting on her. They're ignoring everybody else for her. Let's get married today before I leave for flight school. Like, how many times has that happened?
Or what if the next guy she ends up with, because she's more vulnerable now, that's what happens after a breakup, or when you get your face played, which is really what happened to her. And what if she ends up getting taken advantage of? And again, I know, Aubrey, you and I obviously don't have the same experience in terms of how rampant it is, but with men coming in and wreaking havoc in a woman's life, it's very possible that the next person she meets is the male equivalent of a Carmen Jones, spends some time with her, takes advantage of her, and moves on. And then what happened to her? So she could very well have some kind of psyche transformation, But what I'm struggling with is why, it's just this celebration of like, keep coming back to the thing that is not reciprocal. And that's now love. It's like you keep coming to this thing that's not reciprocal.
I'm not celebrating that.
But you kind of are when you say that.
Listen,
that's what unconditional.
I'm not celebrating it. I'm saying, from my perspective, she was demonstrating love because she was concerned about him above everything. And what I'm saying is in my experience, that lesson that she learned, I don't believe she'll have to learn it again. I believe she learned what to look for. And the next guy, she is going to know the red flags before she gets in deep with him. And in my experience, women have, like, they will know the red flags and just push past them. It's not that they don't know them. It's that they see them and they feel like, well, this situation will be different. But if you ask them and they're honest, the things that ended up ruining the situation later on were the things that they knew on the first date. And I'm just saying, that's from all the women that I talked to. It's not this, like Joe switched up like.
And bro, you don't think that happens in the other direction? I just want to hear you say it. You don't think it happens in the other direction?
I know it doesn't.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. I just thought this is so strange. I just can't even understand the conclusions that you're drawing.
Well, it's difficult for, to find empathy as a man is difficult because you will explain your experience and people say, no, that's not what happens. And you're like,
but aren't you also doing that to me right now? But I'm just saying in general.
Listen, I'm talking from the man's perspective. And I'm talking about recognizing when somebody's in love with you. That's what I'm not telling you what's going on your side. I mean, when we're talking about stuff like who has easier access to sex, that's just a fact. Like if you look up, I would encourage anybody who is watching this podcast or listening, simply go do your own research. Just do your own research, find out who has had more, what percentage of men have had sex in the past year. Just look that up.
But bro, we've talked about the narrative disconnect.
What I'm saying
we've talked about the narrative disconnect, and women are not able to talk about their sexuality in the way that men are. It's just the facts, bro, because of the labels. I mean, you have to acknowledge that disconnect.
If you think the average man has as easy access to sex as the average woman, you're just wrong. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, you can look up any study you want.
Well, I'm
disappointed that you're willing to own that this is your opinion, bro.
It's not an opinion. It's a fact. I'm not talking about opinion.
I would
right
say
now.
the caution behind looking up that type of stat is you need to get into the nuance of that type of statistic. So if we're talking about in the past year, we just got out of a pandemic 20 minutes ago. Like, I mean, so we can't now, if you're giving me a stat from like, let's say 2017, I'll be like, oh, okay, tell me something I could see, but if we're talking about in the last year, there are so many factors that are playing into whatever that statistic might be. Like there are heavy factors.
All I'm saying is if you think a male Walmart worker has the same access to sex as a female Walmart worker, you're just wrong.
Bro,
that's the thing. The male
Walmart worker, and it still does not align with the truth of my life, is what I'm telling you.
The male Walmart worker is trying to get with the lawyer.
No, the male worker is trying to get with whoever he can.
The male Walmart worker does not want to get with the other female Walmart worker. And it's like, why are y'all not?
Oh, no, he would definitely get with that female Walmart worker. Absolutely.
100%.
He would.
100%. So do that. And let's be clear.
I'm not trying.
We're not saying it like Walmart is like some,
No, not at all.
I mean, there are complaints
I'm
and
just
stuff
saying,
about how they be paying.
not at all. I'm
Workers,
talking
that's a whole
about
nother
average
conversation.
people.
But
I'm just talking about average people.
A person who is and then the conversation of and definition of an average person is very nuanced.
Yeah, bro. Even pulling
By
out
average,
I'm
not
and Walmart is
talking
strange.
about.
It's like,
I'm not saying, I'm not using average as a pejorative term. I'm saying average mathematically. I'm talking about just average people who have average results. I'm not saying negative. I'm just talking about average people.
Well, let me ask you a
maybe
question.
we should say the everyday person.
Everyday, that's better.
That's
everyday
better
person.
Well,
let me
right now when
I'll
you're
use
saying
that.
average, I'm like,
that's what I mean.
That's a
okay.
term.
Everyday people.
But
everyday
let me
people,
ask a question, y'all. Let me ask a question, y'all, because I think one of the things that we're getting to, segue back to the movie, is that we found truth in these characters. I mean, obviously, because it's leading us into this larger conversation here that we can have, and so this feels like an opportunity for us to talk about. And Aubrey, you started talking about when you were like, all these people are questionable, who has good intention here. But let's talk now about that. Let's talk about the characters and the acting. And I kind of want to just smush it together.
I don't feel like we even talk about it because we are in this conversation. The acting was good. Like we're in it, like we know Joe, like we know Carmen, like we know Cindy Lou, right? Because when I think about it, I'm like, when I say Cindy Lou, I think about myself. And I think about what that looks like and how I know we want to believe that this good little sweet woman is going to have the best narrative afterwards. But I promise you, there are a ton of podcasts that are out here. There are women in my circle and in my own personal life. Just like there's always this conversation of the good guy finishes last, so does the good woman. So I struggle with this conversation that we've been having because I know the end of that narrative. I've seen it. And a lot of times that woman ends up alone. And I'm not saying it like alone is a bad thing. You don't have to be in a relationship. But what I am saying is if you desire it, oftentimes because that woman is seen as average, she's seen as someone who I want something better. So nobody wants that. She's alone in a hallway, walking down, singing about this man.
She has some sad songs on her song list
that doesn't treat her well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and this is not a new narrative. This is not something that is, it's just now happening. No, this has been happening for years. And so that is why I'm just like, the struggle for me is that there are so many people out here, and this is men and women, that are great individuals, but they get someone like a Joe who is saying and doing all the right things. You can't even see a red flag. Her mama loved him. Because she immediately thought that the package that he got while he was in prison, while he was in jail, in the board, whatever they called it, while he was in the stockades, she immediately thought it was from his mom. So she opens it up. Like, it's like this. Oh, this is from my
She
mom.
thought it was a care package from her mom. It was a
care package, and it was something from Carmen, because this is the innocence of her mind. So we want to believe that she gets these red flags. No, what happens is a boundary comes up and a piece of her heart gets hard because I have done so much to you, for you. I've poured into this and I genuinely am in love with you unconditionally. And now you chose me for somebody that is making you crazy, got you living in a dirty room. The military police are after you. She ain't cooking nothing for you because both of y'all look sick. Like, I'm traveling to come see you. You done forgot all about me. You ain't thought about Cindy in a million years. This type of, there is a way that you can come out on top of that. But many people, unless you are going through some type of transformation in your mind, you have some time before you come out of that on top. You have some time, because when you are in love, that is different. That's, as you were saying, Carmen, she could just walk away. What? I'm gonna go with Husky. I want money. Da 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 da. But now she has to process that. And now she has to get through a place of not making other people be a victim of that and be held to that. And so I wanted to make sure that we name that. And so, but even getting back to your question, these actors, they took us into this movie.
Big time.
They took us into this world.
Big time.
I'm in it, and I'm like, where is Cindy, girl? Because don't you be...
I didn't... The story intrigued me more than the acting. Like, the story, there was so much of it rang true. This couple running into this crazy person who eventually penetrates the boundaries, because she even had help. She had help because the dude who was arresting her, he even had bad intentions.
Sergeant Brown.
Yeah, Sergeant Brown. Because he
clearly had a jealousy or something with Joe. And
he was trying to get with Cindy Lou.
He was jealous of him about to have to.
He was trying to get with
to go to do the flight school. He was jealous of him.
Yeah.
He was trying to get to Cindy Lou. He was trying to get to Carmen. It was whatever Joe had. He wanted.
And we all know that, we've seen that too. You know, where somebody will
jealousy.
You know, so, and then how none of this is going to end good. That rang very true. And then when I was hearing the songs, I felt like, because when I was in chorus, we sang the one song, Toreador on God, Toreador, and they changed the lyrics for this movie. But even though I didn't know all the details Janai just gave me, it made me feel like this movie has its genesis somewhere else. Like, I felt like I was watching a version of something else.
Oh, I see.
And because of that,
that gave us the movie Genealogy. We see why.
It was interesting.
I mean, but for real, because when you look at the story of her making decisions that led to the outcome she's been talking about, that is something we see in those, Greek stories, and like we see that happen a lot. So the acting, I liked the story, but it honestly made me, the acting almost took me out of the story. I felt like the accents were inconsistent. I felt like when they were singing, sometimes he sounded like Harry Belafonte, and then when he did.
Well, so on the singing, Harry Belafonte's character, his voice was dubbed by someone named Laverne Hutchison, and Dorothy Dandridge.
Really?
Yep.
Because it sounded like there was. It sounded like
you was finna tell me that.
But it was only one. There was no song with his voice. It was always the dub.
But when the dub sounded like it had an accent though.
Well, maybe the dub did, but
I wonder.
And Dorothy Dandridge, her voice was dubbed by Marilyn Horne. Now Pearl Bailey,
Horne sister.
Merlin.
There's a cousin.
And it's her third cousin twice removed.
Right.
You remember
Pearl Bailey.
Remember them over there.
Remember them? Yeah. Now Pearl Bailey, who played one of Carmen's friends, Frankie. You remember Pearl?
That is who that was. I was like, why can I not know her name right now? I said, I know this face.
I have never seen this young version of Pearl Bailey before.
At all.
Because when I think of Pearl Bailey, when I think of Pearl Bailey, I think of a much older, heavy set version of Pearl Bailey. And this is when she was a young chickie.
Listen,
so I didn't recognize her at first, but then her voice did sound familiar.
That's what it was.
They didn't dub her voice.
Okay, that was good.
And this is actually a really interesting nugget, because the reason because we all know that Harry Belafonte and Dorothy Dandridge,
like, let's get this money, girl.
They can sing, right? They are known for being able to sing.
I'm just so.
Well, the reason they dubbed it was because they are not opera singers. And again, because they went back to the operatic origins for this music. And so that is why they did the dubbing. It was not because Harry and Dorothy couldn't sing, it's because they weren't opera singers.
And Janai,
please tell me they did Cindy Lou. Oh, I need her voice to be real.
Janai, let me tell you, you just brought me to, and this is all related, but that was one of my disappointments of this movie. Because when I saw this cover, I was like, yo, this is about to be something good. Like when we pulled it up and just the way it looked, I was like, yo, this is about to be interesting right here. Because knowing how they are performers and stuff like that, I'm like, what kind of spin are they going to put on this? And I hate to use this example, okay?
Well, let me answer Brittany's question.
Oh, okay.
Olga
I didn't know we had an answer.
Olga James, who played Cindy Lou, was a trained opera singer.
Oh, good.
So she was not dubbed.
Listen, that voice, I don't know if
there
it's
it is.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead, bro. I just want to answer that question.
What I'm saying is,
let me look.
I would have liked to see this movie like The Wiz. Okay? Not The Wiz necessarily, but you know how, like, you got The Wizard of Oz, which we all love The Wizard of Oz. But when you saw Michael Jackson, all these different, and that cast for The Wiz, you're like, yo, I'm about to hear some music right now. Like, I love the music from The Wiz, and I love the music for The Wizard of Oz. What I don't want to hear is Diana Ross singing like Judy Garland. That's not what I would want to hear. And that's what I felt in this movie. And I'm surprised it blew up the way it did. Maybe it was because of what Brittany said, that it was just like, it had a little risque scene and people were just, I don't know.
Well,
but
you said it was well written.
With them zebra draw.
But I'm just saying,
written too, though, bro. I mean,
yeah, the story. But I'm just saying, in terms of performances, that is not. I didn't want to hear them singing opera, even though they were good. I'm saying, and I could get how somebody would like it. And I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, when I'm looking at this cover, I'm like, yo, we about to see some swing dance. I don't know. We about to see something. Like I was ready to see them in there.
You wanted to see that thing you sent me that one time.
How's the popping?
That's it. I called it
well, you know what, bro? You're hitting on something that I experienced as well. You know, I had a moment, where I did have to reset my expectations a little bit, because I realized I was comparing this musical to all of the other musicals that we've seen. And we have not seen one that was actually like an opera, or had the intention of opera. And I had to reset on that, because there was actually a moment, and I sent Brittany and Aubrey a text while I was watching it that was like, boring. And it was because it was like the songs were just emoting. And in most cases, you weren't learning new information. The songs were just emoting. And I was watching actually the movie with James, and I said that, and he was like, well, this is an opera. And I was like, now you done shook me up a little bit right there. And it's true that is what opera is. But I was struggling until I reset my expectations for what I expected the music to be. Because it was the same thing with dance. The musicals that we have seen, they were very much about, and we were able to very rightly rate them on the amount of dancing they had and how well the dancing was performed. Is that a fair question to ask for a musical that isn't trying to be that, because it's really an opera, And I think the answer is no. Now, we did have a really great dance scene in this movie, in the juke joint.
Really great. Would you say it's? I know which one you're talking about. I thought it was good, but do you think really great?
But again, I wouldn't say it was great like a Seven Brides for Seven Brothers theme.
Yeah, like that.
But I gotta tell you,
like that.
I liked it
to be the threshold for stuff anymore. We need to pick a new threshold.
But when that bar is so high, that bar's so high. But the point is, I enjoyed it because sometimes when you see a dance scene, it's like, and cue dance scene. But I liked about that dance scene was that it truly just looked like people having a good time. Per Bailey's in there, stirring it up. They're interacting.
And the music was like that too. It was very much in
They're
line.
interacting with the musician instead of just the musician becoming the soundtrack for the dance. So
and the singing too. The singing too was in line.
There was one song I thought about both of y'all, because both of y'all always talk about how y'all want the song to move the movie on.
And this did.
And again.
And it did, but there was a song though that made me think of y'all when they were like, Carmen Jones is leaving. Right. I said, well, this meets their standard of letting you know what's going on.
But Cindy Lou, that as a singer, oh man, she listen, that Olga James, girl, you sang them songs.
Olga,
but I do think they gave us like I don't think we needed as many like my heart's broken songs.
Whatever you're about to say.
I just felt like it was
appropriate. I was just like appropriate amount.
One thing I felt about the songs
disagree.
100% of them, 100% of the songs were too long in this movie. 100%. Every song was too long.
Yeah.
Not just one of them. And like every song, when I thought it was ending, they would just come back like, like I get the point. You're not even seeing no new stuff.
I also thought about Aubrey doing the one scene. Listen, first of all, they haven't made somebody this crazy in a musical, but it has to be an opera, of course, because this is an opera, right? I was like, only an opera could make somebody look this crazy, but knowing that the origins of it is a novella makes it even better. Because when Joe was hanging out at the arena on the side, waiting for when he
had lost it at that point.
He had lost it. When he was sitting in the audience with his hat on and he heard her say something that he didn't like, and he got up and walked out, I said, oh Lord. And when he was waiting on the side, because I was like, what is he doing? I was like, is he still after the police? What's happening here? When he dragged her into that room, I said, oh no, Joe, you done lost. You've officially lost it. When he lost it back in the thing when he had the knife out, I said, you think you're one of the Jets.
She took all his marbles. He ain't have no marbles left. No. The marbles was gone.
I said,
yeah, because it's also like your plan is not great. Like you want to confront somebody and you want to hide from the military police. You don't go to a high state, like a public, very well attended, well publicized boxing match to execute your plan. That's how you knew he had just lost it, because it wasn't rational.
Yeah, it wasn't
in any way.
When he was in that closet, y'all. Now, this was my time. I laughed at them starting to sing this opera music. When she was like, basically, Joe, I do not want you. I'm with Husky. I'm in the streets. You see my white fur. Please don't touch me. Like, that's not her actual words, but that's basically what was happening. He was like,
I think it was almost
y'all, when I tell you, I laughed out loud, and all I thought to myself was, I said, if we put this in modern terms, there would be so many people like, oh my God, he's simping. He is
I mean, in the
he is the original. Even if there was simping before him, he took it over.
Word. I don't even like that word, but I promise you.
I don't know that term, but I don't like it.
Simping is when you do. It's a term for men.
I said, she left you in a hotel room with no more groceries. She is gone. You can't go nowhere because the military police are after you. And you are in a closet.
Brittany, there's no other word to describe it. I'm sorry.
Is Cindy Lou also a simp?
No. Simping.
Listen.
Because Cindy Lou,
if we are putting
based on the definition y'all just gave me,
she could be simping.
Well, I'm just saying, if you're talking about
he was looking
how
Joe just come on. I was like, bro, he was wielding a knife, trying to kill a world champion.
Based on the definition, she also was doing that.
I'm saying, well, if you're communicating with people who use the term, simping means a man who gives a woman undeserving treatment. That's what the definition is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but just back to our earlier conversation that we selectively are like some terms, the way these terms are gendered. I'm just saying this particular one, the way y'all just defined it, it just feels like me, like Cindy Lou meets that criteria. Well, we're talking about, we are talking about the characters, we're talking about the acting, we're talking about the singing, we're talking about the dancing. And let's talk a little bit more about the casting.
The casting for me, if you were going to keep this operatic, I would have liked to see a cast from that world. Because with the cast that we got, I would have preferred to see the music and vibe completely changed to match them and I know that's just my opinion. And I'm not saying that's how it should have been. I'm saying when I see Harry Belafonte and Dorothy Dandridge, I was expecting a certain
Harry Belafonte and Dorothy Dandridge.
Yeah, I was expecting with this movie to be like, yo, what if we, just like The Wiz, it's like, yo, what if we took and got the soul singers and the R&B singers and like, yo, let's make some great versions.
They did that. You know,
because you can say whatever you want about the plot, but when Mike, you can't win time. Like, I'm talking about.
You know, they did a Carmen Jones hip opera. Did you know about this? Okay, I have not seen it.
It's with Beyonce and Mekhi Phifer.
Yeah,
I remember when it came on television. That's when I used to.
2001.
I still watch stuff live, but I remember that was a thing. So many of us were excited to watch that.
It's 2001, and
be careful what you wish for, bro.
I was gonna say, I think they did what you said. Well, y'all, you know, I gotta say this again, in the same way that this movie, just from a casting perspective, and the same way that this movie made me realize, man, we need to get into some Black musicals, and what are we doing? And the same way that it made me realize that gap, it made me realize, do I really know Harry Belafonte's work? No, I really don't. You know, I have like one image of him and like one character of his that I think of. So I feel like I don't even know his body of work. And guess what? I hate to say the same thing with Dorothy Dandridge. I'm like, I have known who she is, but I also found myself, I'm just gonna be honest with you all, I had for one beat, and I'm almost embarrassed to say this, but I had confused her with Josephine Baker because I had this coloring book when I was little that had Josephine Baker in it. And
Josephine Baker in a coloring book?
What was a Black celebrate your Black people
shout out
book.
To our parents.
Okay. And
I'm just saying that was a
and
shout out.
And it had
talking
the
about
Black
Mr. Rogers Sesame Street situation.
No, it did not. You color in the Black person icon. You get to read a couple of sentences about them.
Crayon, and then you could down to the bottom.
And then you could cut it out and make it into a little paper person. And I remember that coloring book because that was good. I love that. But the point is, that's how little I know about Dorothy Dandridge, that I had a 2 to 3 minute. I'm like, oh, girl, you're getting these people confused. And so
they just both so good that it was like, oh my gosh.
Well, it's my lack of acquaintance with their portfolios. That's what was revealed to me. And it was like, Janiyah, you know these people in terms of like, you got a talking point on them, but do you know their work? And I'm like, that's something I personally felt a little called out about, you know. I was excited
about Angela Bassett. You would know her work, and she's a classic from our time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
classic from our time.
And then the other thing is these other Black actors in here. So did y'all realize that Mert, the person who was with Pearl Bailey, that other friend that was, did y'all realize that was Diane Carroll?
And please tell me that was her voice. Because Diane Carroll could sing.
Her singing voice was dubbed by Bernice Peterson.
You know what? I'm gonna turn my camera on.
They wanted that operatic.
But you know what? That's what I'm saying. Like, if that's what y'all were going to do.
That was Diane Carroll, though, y'all. And that's
I'm just saying.
Now,
if that's what y'all were going to do.
At the time, that was her first movie. Same. Now, there's another big, and all of these names, you all. When I started reading about these people, I'm like, why don't I know these people? Brock Peters, who played Sergeant Brown, this person we cannot stand. He was in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Girl, I know that name.
What?
Shut up. Brock Peters.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that name. And Diane Carroll, she just passed away in 2019.
So y'all, there's just for me, as much as I have wanted, and I don't want to diminish what we know and understand about musicals, because we we have a robust knowledge, but it's been very white.
Oh no, you are 100%
It's been very white.
Now, as far as Harry Belafonte, I feel like I know enough of his music that my expectation was justified on some level.
Absolutely.
But
and I do feel like
outside
I know him
of
as a
that,
musician better than I know him as an actor.
A musician. But like outside of that, no. And you're 100% right. But I just, with all the, I'm like, if you were going to make a movie like an opera movie, then just get people who do that. And then,
but could they draw to because that's
there
the
had to be
pull.
Somebody.
Can they draw the audience that the Harry Belafonte and Dorothy Dandridge could draw? Who's coming to the theater?
Yeah. I mean, that's a star-studded cast right there.
Yeah.
Dorothy Dandridge, Harry Belafonte,
Pearl Bailey, what?
Pearl Bailey,
you're
like,
right. No, you're right.
Those are the greats.
And the reason I'm just telling y'all, when I saw that,
it was a missed opportunity.
Because we've never seen this. And so when I Googled, so I could pull it up, I'm like, oh shit, like, oh, this is about to be, you know what I mean? Like, this, and it just, and so even though, like, I agree with James. It's like, yo, you're watching an opera movie, and
it's different. It's different.
It did that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, I would have liked to see that same cast.
Yes. But to do their thing.
Do their thing. That is it. That is what I would have liked to see. I feel like that.
It's like a Fred Astaire movie and he didn't really dance. It's like, why would you do
I can't say anything better than what you just said. Yeah. That is what I mean.
Yeah, why would you do that?
Think about, though, these dynamic people, these famous people, and they still have stories of, wasn't it Dorothy Dandridge? She put her foot or her toe in a pool and they drained the whole pool. Like, you think about.
Yeah, I heard she had a real tragic.
Oh,
I don't know the story. Didn't Halle Berry play her?
Yeah, in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think about the at this time, these amazing people and what they had to experience to get to where they were. All they going in the back doors of places. Because you're
a star.
You're a star.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's the people know your name internationally.
Yep.
And you could probably get more respect. Probably get more respect going someplace else than the place you were born.
And
I just can't imagine.
And you know what? So, and along those same lines, it's like the thing that becomes a person's legacy sometimes is their tragedy. And that's just too bad. It's like Carmen Jones is this wonderful, very special character that, that Dorothy Dandridge got to play. We see her talent is apparent. For me, you all, I thought the acting was very strong. I really did. I mean, even for the side characters, like Mert and Frankie, I was like, these people I'm enjoying these performances. Even the managers that for the boxer, I was like, these are really believable, like, performances right now. But even with all of that, what is Dorothy Dandridge's legacy? It's that she committed suicide. She had apparently a long, by one report I read, 4 years relationship with Otto Preminger, the man that was the director and producer of this movie. I read 2 different accounts, and in both of the accounts, their relationship started up because of the movie. It wasn't before the movie. It wasn't why she was cast, but during the course of the movie, they got together. He was married at the time, so she was on the side for 4 years. She apparently got pregnant by him. The production house made her have an abortion. In the course of her life, she had been married twice. She had a child with special needs. And I got to tell y'all, it was when I did general Googling of her, that's the stuff that came up first. And I was like, see, why is the scandal popping up?
Yeah, that's sad.
Before the celebration.
That's how we are. Humans,
the internet does that. It's like, this is what
but the internet comes from what people be clicking on.
That's right. I feel like we can go to the vote now.
Yes. Okay. Well, yeah, I am definitely conflicted. I'm still not sure as I finish this thought, but because I understand, like, what James was talking about, like this, they were doing a certain thing. And I feel like if that's the thing they were doing, they executed it. And in that case, I can understand why it was successful as it was. But I'm just saying, for me, for my personal, it just didn't hit me the way I thought. And I just imagine what this could have been like if they were just like, we're going to use the same story, but we all just going to do our thing. And like, you could just feel them, like everybody was in their element. And it was just, I just feel like it could have been something truly amazing. So ultimately, I will say it's not a classic for me. It's not a classic. Yeah. But I'm conflicted.
We have to say whether it gets your
Oh yeah. So it does not get my 9 of spades.
Okay.
But I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. And bro, this one was tricky for me too. This one was tricky for me because, and I needed this conversation to land.
Me too.
Okay. So for me, you know, and bro, just to use your, like, because we're talking about The Wiz as an example where they actually featured the talents of the cast that they had. I feel like if we did not have Carmen Jones, we would never have had The Wiz. You know, it's one of these things.
And that's another thing, man.
When you go back to this, when you take yourself to that period and you understand what was actually going on. I mean, think about 1950, where we were in terms of civil rights. Like, this is huge that this movie happened. And some of the
$9 million in 1950, what,
54.
And
so when I think about the things that I struggle with, so I definitely struggled with like the songs going into like, now I have bad grammar all of a sudden, you know, and I don't want to say bad, but
no, not bad.
You know, moving into this other kind of speech that's different from the speech that's in my spoken dialogue. That inconsistency was disappointing for me because I would rather it all be one kind of speech. Whatever speech it is, you know. The other thing I had to work through was the lack of origin story that they gave us for Dorothy Dandridge's character. So Carmen, you know, and again, it could just been a couple of sentences of explanation about why her worldview was the way it was. And they didn't give her that. But I also know that it is a truthful trope that a Black strumpet is something that didn't need to be justified in white Hollywood. You know, that was something that just existed in terms of how Black women were portrayed. And so the fact that she had the level of depth that she did have was actually, you know, positive progress. So I did have to check myself a little bit and again, I had to also, on the music big time. I was like, okay, let me let go of expecting a full barn dance every single time somebody sings. And then for the song to be more storytelling than emoting, I had to get over that and accept the terms of an opera. So it was hard for me in that way. What was not hard for me to kind of understand and celebrate this movie, it was the acting. I was like, man, I appreciated the story. I really did. I thought it was interesting. It had a lot of layers. They gave us a lot of different characters to consider, you know? And I was like, the fact that sergeant, we have a true sense of who that sergeant was, that jerk, when he wasn't in the movie very much. But when he was there, that portrayal and the way that it was written, we know who that guy is. We know that guy. So I could celebrate the writing. I could celebrate the acting. And again, in aggregate, when I reset, as I said earlier, I see this movie as a complete success. Well, I guess what this movie did for me is that it made me question the very bar I'm using to assess, you know, because I remember I had to get to a place in my life, and I feel like it was even late. I feel like it was maybe somewhere in my 20s where I had to even stop feeling like there was a certain way to talk that was appropriate. There was a certain way to dress that was appropriate. I just have all of these like Eurocentric norms that I am just proactively and constantly, I'm working against that programming because I hate it. Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, my bar right now for musicals, you know, I need to interrogate this a little bit. And this movie did that for me. So would I go back and watch it a bunch of times right now? You know what? I don't know that I would. But there's something about it that I appreciate so much that I do want to go back and watch it. I almost feel like I feel driven to appreciate this content and these performers, because they deserve it, because it was well done. Like, they did a good job. Oh wait, it says it does get my 9. This movie, for these reasons, this movie does get my 9 of spades.
I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the story of it. I enjoyed being able to say, because Carmen represents things, right? She doesn't necessarily represent only what can happen in relationship, but she represents what can happen when you don't stay consistent and stay focused. When you don't keep your eye on what is important. There's so many things that can get our eyes shifted off of what our actual goal is, what our goals are, what is important. There's so many things that can come in, because life is life, and it'll throw things at you, and it'll make this one thing seem so important, and it's not actually. So to me, Carmen represents what happens when we waste our time. And so for that reason, when I think about this movie and how it can be applied to so many things, it does get my 9 of spades. I do see that this movie, I do vote it to be a classic, deem it to be a classic. And the cast was amazing. They did a great job of pulling me in and making me, feel like these are great people that if I go down the street, I could, or, really when you listen to people who are older and they're telling the stories of their lives, I felt like I'm watching something where someone could have been like, I know this one woman. These are people. These are people who we still know that each one of us, we can look back in our lives or even in our present lives and go, I know that person. So for all that, it gets my 9 of spades. But
oh man,
not all 3 of us though.
This was a tricky one, y'all. This was tricky. But at the end of the day, Carmen Jones is not a classic from the Wright Perspective. Thanks for this discussion, bro and sis. This was tricky. This was tricky. Oh, love y'all. Thanks for listening and watching, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Love y'all.